Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the One Spark Network. My name is Eric J. Hecker, and I am joined today with our special guest, Freddy Silva. Freddie is one of the speakers that I had the pleasure of meeting at the Snippy event in Mosca, Colorado last year. This year's event will be held August 13th to 16th. Freddie will be back there again, and I'm looking forward to chatting with him. He's an excellent gentleman, a fountain of information, and welcome.
Yeah, the refried beans were so good, I'm going back.
There you go. Well, Freddie, I mean, you're a person that's been into the investigations of the paranormal for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken. How long has it been?
Oh, not so much the paranormal. It's more to do with ancient civilizations, which kind of leads off into the paranormal and the otherworldly things that, the overlapping of parallel universes. And I had no idea this was going to go in that direction. I just kind of followed my compass and figured out, what a big stone's all about, what a pyramid's all about, and why were the ancients maintaining cultures in balance for so long with so much little effort, and yet today we can barely keep a government together for 4 years,
Right.
and that's why I wanted to find out why. What was their secret? What was the underlying premise that maintained themselves in balance, not just on this level, but also other levels of reality as well. And that's where the paranormal comes in. But I would tend to go more into the area of subtle realms. Paranormal starts getting us into weird stuff,
Oh, fair
which I
enough.
think
Yep, the archaeological side is fantastic because it gives us a basis of reality in the world around us. I guess in my mind's eye, I find there's a lot of peculiar things even in that digging because there's so much
oh
that
god,
we
yeah,
find that we don't know that doesn't make much sense, so to say, is semi
exactly.
paranormal at the very least. But I'm wondering, was there a specific spark or anomalous event that you could say maybe first cracked open your curiosity in this direction of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I was drawing pyramids when I was 3, so that was weird by itself.
Hmm.
And so something was hardwired in here for later. And then I got seduced by the normal world. I wanted to go into become a rock star. Little did I know that I'd be actually studying large upright rocks. So I got the rock part right. I just didn't realize the rock music part wasn't part of it. But no, I was just curious about the ancient past, about dinosaurs. I used to collect dinosaur eggs when I was younger. And I also have a reference for very old things. The modern world holds very little interest for me. I find little salvage in the modern world. I find it very fake and very quick and very disposable. I like things that stick. I want to find out what makes things tick. And really, what really got me going was the crop circle research that I began getting into quite by accident. I was actually ironing a shirt when I was living in Chicago and watching something on television. The sound was turned off, and I saw this, combine harvester in a field and a big symbol in a wheat field in England. And I thought, what the hell is that? And I remember saying to my then wife, I said, I know exactly what that is. And she goes, well, what is it? I said, well, I can't explain it, but I know what it is. I've seen this before. And something clicked in here. And sure enough, every year when I get my 2 weeks of vacation, as we do here in America, I basically quit my job and go for 4 weeks, come back and get my old job back. And I got myself more and more involved and invested in the phenomenon, partly because of some of the experiences that I was getting into. And I had no idea what the crop circles really were about. I'd hang out with the acknowledged experts at the time, and I start sensing and seeing things before they even tell me stuff. Whether they tell me it was man-made or real, they wouldn't tell me, but I was already picking up the difference between the two, and it led from there. But the one thing that really kicked in was when I got pushed into writing a book, which then becomes an international bestseller, which is surprised the hell out of me. I didn't want to write a book about crop circles. I didn't want to be an author for that reason. I was making a lot of money as a creative director, so I had my flash sports car. What did I want to get involved with being a poor author for? Well, boom, someone pushed me in that direction. I had to learn about physics, about the dynamics of flattening plants, about the subtleties of the paranormal, actually, that does get involved with the crop circle world. And one thing led to the other, and I was going very deep into the honeypot, and I wasn't sure where I was going because I'm not a scientist, by training. I have to learn the process as I go. So I can't. It also means I can't make things up as I go because I have to wait for the training in order to bring it into my vernacular so I can make the research stick. But the one thing that really stuck out in my mind is when I was struck with all of these clues that weren't sticking together. There was anomalies in the soil, anomalies in the plants that we cannot explain. There was anti-gravity involved. There's electromagnetic signatures. And I figured, how do all of these things connect? Because I don't see the point. And it was one evening, actually one night, lying inside a crop circle in total darkness in the middle of a field in Wiltshire. I got levitated out of my body. Literally,
Wow.
I could not feel the ground behind on the soil. And I still remember as clearly as it happened about 30 years ago, my hands floating around me. I'm going, this is interesting. I wasn't panicked. I wasn't scared. I felt completely loved. And there was three people dressed in these enormous silk gowns on either side of me, like I was lying on a flat bed, but I wasn't. I was floating. And two more at the end doing interesting sign language. And I knew exactly what they were communicating. I could hear the sign language. And
Wow.
45 minutes later, I hit the ground with a big thud. And I still had a bump on the back of my head a couple of days later to prove it. And I couldn't stop writing like an idiot after that. I mean, it literally just came pouring out. And I suddenly realized something has happened here, which is of valued interest to the whole world and of great benefit to humanity. And I've got to quit my day job because if that's what's really going on, and I've just experienced that without asking for it, I am going to go and go for it. Well, guess what happens? I lose my marriage, I lose my house, I lose my friends, I lose my money. I go into a spiral of despair, but that book kept me completely glued, and it's still selling very, very well today. So
Hmm.
um, I'm very happy to all the people that have been supporting me since then because it was difficult, but I have seen the benefit that came from all of that, which was we got new technology out of the crop circles, we have healing modalities, we have new mathematics, and of course what it does to the plants and the soil, which is very beneficial, which the farmers also noted. So that's how I kind of really got into it. I decided to take a big leap of faith and recognize if there is a direct communication going on with an otherworldly um, culture. I call them my friends, actually, my extended family. I've met these the circle makers, the real people, as in the ones who actually make real crop circles, not the fake stuff. Um, for them, they're very real in my reality because I've interacted with them several times, and they're very benevolent. So I figured I'm going to trust the process and see where it goes. And before I knew it, book two, book three, book four, now on book nine, and one thing has led to the other, and all of these things are linked. Crop circles, pyramids, Stonehenge, megaliths, altered consciousness, they are all part of the same subject. And you could not buy me enough beer to convince me that I would have ever worked this out 30 years ago, and here I am.
Yeah, it's wild. These paths. I'm curious when when you said that life was getting difficult and you were kind of switching gears and changing paths and stuff. At that time period, was there anybody in your life that you would say maybe was like a mentor or somebody's work that was inspirational to you at the time that kind of kept you going?
Oh God, yeah. And they actually weren't very associated with crop circles at all. They were antiquarians. So the late John Michel, if you don't have his books, buy them. A genius. And he was one of the fundamental people, ironically, who in the 50s and the 60s brought the UFO subject into the folklore of British culture. He was part of that counterculture to understand that we are not alone. There's interaction going on between worlds. And he wrote some of the best books about the encoding of mathematics in sacred sites, buildings, and parables. I mean, the guy's a genius. People like Paul Broadhurst, who's a great friend of mine now, and Hamish Miller, dowsers, people who understand the subtle energies of the land and how they interact with sacred space. People like that that really brought me out of my sort of comfort zone, which I'd really understood, but I didn't know how to get into it. And of course, some people in the UFO phenomenon as well. I've met some incredible people over the years who, although the two subjects don't really rub shoulders, there is a slight overlap here and there. Stephen Greer was one of the first people that I actually got in touch with. Lovely man. And I kind of felt for what he had to put up with as well. We've all had to put up with a lot of stuff to give up our day jobs to go through this. And I can tell when people are doing the right thing, when they give up everything and they suffer the slings and the arrows, even from their friends, but they stick to it because they know they've experienced something different. And despite all the things that you're going to lose, what you gain is A, you stuck up for your principles. When you die, you can say, I actually made a difference to this planet. Even if it's just 1%, I've made a difference, and I can be happy that I followed my conscience and I actually went through with the path that I was given. So I don't regret it at all. I really don't. It is difficult. This path is very difficult. It's not for everybody. You can make it up, and there's
Yeah.
80% of people right now in what I'm involved with, they make stuff up. I'm sorry, they do.
Yeah.
The 20% are the real thing, and that's the
I'm
people I really appreciate. And because they're having a hard life. They don't have the girlfriends, they don't have
I'm I'm only
all the
smiling,
money.
Freddie, because I'm right there with you. I totally understand the
You
path
know what
that
I'm
you're on,
saying.
and yep,
It
I
makes you
feel
wonder
for
why.
you, and it is what it is. If you're not
You'd think
willing,
that the management would help
yeah,
us out a little bit,
if you're not
Some of
willing
us
to
need to
wager
be a
something, right,
number.
and you can't win them all. But no, that's yeah, no, keep fighting the good fight. I mean, I respect folks, that say what you're saying. Like you're right. This is I tell people all the time that disclosure is not for cowards.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's it.
I've seen a lot of them come and go, and a lot of people who have died for their beliefs,
Hmm.
not just from conspiracies, but from just old age, by
Hmm.
pushing through the barriers of preconceived understanding and sticking to their guns because they can prove it,
Yeah,
or at least have the evidence to back it up.
it's
That's the important thing.
it's
Proof
very
is difficult.
taxing to come up against the walls of existing academia.
Oh God, yeah. You just let them go. I don't care about them.
Hmm.
If they want to go off a cliff, that's fine because
Hmm.
history has shown that the independent researchers are usually right
Hmm.
when it comes down to it because we're not confined by a great big wall called a university. Okay, no, there's nothing wrong with universities. It's just that they have a certain amount of things that they have to read. There are a lot of things that they don't want to include in their vocabulary because it's not acceptable
Hmm.
to the academics, and that's terrible. Whereas in my case, I can talk to anybody. I will talk to anybody that brings something to the table. So at the end of the day, I have a big palette from which to work from. Some of it doesn't work, a lot of it does, but you've got to see the connections. So when you have more ingredients, the stew is a lot tastier. Old cliche, but it really does work in this kind of line of work. I can talk to geologists, climatologists. I can talk to symbologists. Anything that brings something to bear on the subject I'm researching that gives me more concrete evidence that I can say, here's a great hypothesis, and I think I can make this stick. And if it doesn't, you throw it away.
Hmm.
Now, in academia, it's completely different. They're bound by certain rules and restrictions. And you should see what they do to each other in the forums or even in published journals. They kill each other. It's like a mafia. It's
Hmm.
horrible. And you always know when the colleges and the universities are on vacation because then they come on Facebook and attack people like us. Guaranteed, it's the only time when they're there trashing all of us, and then they go back to their day jobs. But if you get them off track, and sometimes I do, because I do like to reach out across the aisle, and I'll say, look, the cameras aren't here, there's no one recording you. What do you believe? And they'll say, actually, if you're not going to publish this, the independent people are actually doing better work because you're not governed by the rules that we
Right.
have to. As long as you're following the same rules of research, which is evidence, and make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. You've got to do the basic research. You can't make stuff up. Otherwise, you might as well call it a hypothesis, which is fine. Don't call it evidence or proof.
Right.
So as long as we're working from the same platform, then there's no reason that we can also create a piece of evidence and put forward a certain abstract. And they can't go online and say that. They cannot say that in public. They will never be published. They'll be trashed, and that's the end of their career. So I kind of feel sorry for a lot of them. Not all of them, because they are quite nasty people out there. But it has taught me a lot about human nature, much more than I have about aliens or UFOs or pyramids, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've done a lot of work in research facilities, and it's disheartening to see scientists kind of just function for the next grant, I guess.
Absolutely. And then there's a short pot. There's few places to go around. So I get it. I understand
I
the
get it.
fear. But you can't work from fear. You've got to work from passion. You've got to work from love. And sometimes there is nothing there. You have to go on a whim. I've done it. I mean, I was just handed over a large section of my trunk of my car full of stuff for Goodwill today and the Salvation Army. I've been cleaning out the house, and I said, you know what? 30 years ago, I was in that Goodwill store, also having to buy stuff because that's where I was.
Hmm.
Literally, I had to go to Goodwill to get pots, pans, knives, and forks because I was struggling. But I
Hmm.
didn't give it up. I knew where I was going. I did know the outcome, but I trusted that something's good's going to come out of this at some point. I just followed that instinct, and it actually worked out quite well. So now I'm giving a little bit back. Makes you feel good.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing, Freddie. Yeah, I'm digging this whole Snippy community. I'm coming out of the Contact in the Desert event that just occurred, and it was
Oh,
actually surprisingly awesome. I went to one 2 years ago, and it was cool. But this one, I mean, the crowd and the people was fantastic,
oh, good.
and we're parlaying that energy. A whole bunch of folks are coming over to this Snippy event, and I think it'll be fantastic. I think they'll really dig your work
They
as well.
better do.
Yeah, there's a lot of
This
lot of
time they
energy
better.
growing, and I'm curious. So when you started getting into the investigations, what was it like in your what was your first field investigation, and what was that like for you to actually transition into it, to start like doing the work, being on scene, like actually in it, and like how did you feel?
Oh, it's very exciting because you have no idea where you're going, and you can't. You just make it up as you go along, and you're following that trail of passion, and it's that passion that lets you where to go. But you got to be curious as well. Passion and curiosity together is a wonderful combination. So I have an idea of where I'm trying to find. I don't know what I'm finding. I just get out there and do it. I boots on the ground, talk to people, be open-minded, don't judge anything, and see what happens. And sometimes standing next to a large upright rock, it's incredible how much information you get by standing next to a big megalith. And I'm not joking about this. I've just put a documentary together called Megalith, oddly enough, featuring some of the research that's been done over the last 40 years, that these stones are actually alive. You can actually measure energy, and you can actually communicate with information in the energy field and extract information. I didn't even know that was even possible. And now looking back at the volume of my work, and I think I've published 9 books. I've lost track now. And I found that a lot of the information that I'm getting is literally listening to the land, to the spirit of place, fairies, whatever you want to call it. Even standing next to large megaliths and going, what's this all about? Because that's all I know. What is this about? How can I be a better teacher? How can I tell the story that was put here by the people that put this here 5, 6, 7,000 years ago? And that's the best I can do. And you walk around, and incredibly enough, if you just let go, you start getting voices or visions or sudden inspirations, and you get your book out and you go, "That's interesting. How do I prove this?" Well, then you go home and you go to the library, and you spend months in the library and you read a lot of stuff. I even end up in Harvard. I actually go on my knees in Harvard, begging them to let me in to read this particular very rare book, and they actually did it, which is very nice of them. I don't have 80 grand to spare to go to Harvard. So that's how it works. You just literally go with an intention to solve a mystery. You're honest with yourself and you say, I really don't know anything about this. I don't know where I'm going. And I just trust the process. And that passion, that curiosity opens so many doors. And sometimes it happens so quickly as though you're actually going through different portals every single day. And it's like the universe, I call it the management. The management is listening to you and it's watching you learn as you go, and your curiosity is punching through one obstacle at a time, and they'll open another door and another door. And you see this in real time, and you get caught up in the whole thing. And a year later, you've got a book. And you had no intention of writing the book, but once you've seen the information and the evidence, you realize there's something here of a great story, and it actually sticks. There's a logic that goes all the way through. Not that I'm trying to convince anybody of anything, I'm not. I want to lay the evidence out for you. You make up your own mind. But that's the trail. You put the evidence in front of people in a way that's also entertaining and full of references, like 800 references, which is why my hair fell out. I mean, there's a lot of references that goes with this stuff. So it's not just my opinion. This comes from real scientific work. But a lot of it actually comes down from being on the ground, listening to the land, and listening to the people associated with these sites. One of my favorite ones, actually, okay, I have the book right here, oddly enough, is in New Zealand. One of the earliest people that settled in New Zealand long before the Maori, which means that I got death threats from the Maori. It's a very politically charged statement. But these people, I have shown and proved that they were there at least 10,000 years in New Zealand before anybody else. And I went to speak to the wisdom teachers, to the grandmothers. They remember things from 8,000 BC, and you can validate it with real climatology and also geology. So they were not just making it up. I can actually back up what they were saying, and that's the coolest part of this whole thing. Talking to people whose ancestors were closer to the events than we are today, and then putting the whole story together in a way that's also entertaining.
Freddie, what was the name of the indigenous folks that were in New Zealand prior to the I can never say this
The
correctly.
Maori.
Maori.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Which, by
roll
the
off
way,
a
there's no
Long
such thing
Islander's
as
tongue well.
Maori. I spoke to a Maori wisdom keeper. He said, Freddie, there is no such thing as Maori. I said, what do you mean? Well, Maori is not a person. It's a way of being. It's a spiritual ideal.
Oh,
Just like in South America, it's the same thing. Sorry, with the Maya, there's no such thing as Maya. Maya is a mentality. It's a spiritual ideal. But when enough people practice that ideal, it puts a sort of a framework on a group of people called the Maya or the Maori. Now, the Waitaha, they used to live on Easter Island before the flood. So during the Younger Dryas, they remember Easter Island when it was an archipelago. Unless you're an oceanographer, you will not know that at all. And these people are not oceanographers. They know how to travel the water, but they were there when there was land masses around the Pacific, and they remember the gods, who they call the Urukeu, who used to come from Lake Titicaca all the way to Easter Island, and from Easter Island on double hull catamarans all the way to the birthplace of the gods in the South Island of New Zealand. I've been there 6 times, and I can tell you some of the most incredible places on the planet. It's a living landscape temple where the stones are being sculpted by hand into these limestone shapes, which depict their entities, their gods, and it's also their academy. It's where they go to learn. It's something that you put at the top of your bucket list because it will change your life. And these people, the stories that they tell you about the gods being in the flood in the Pacific, being overwhelmed by giant waves when meteorites hit the earth, is spot on to what we know today. And they've been holding on to that information for over 8,500 years. And they said the moment to release this information is when the earth is going to start telling us who's the boss. And within 10 years of the first white guy showing up in New Zealand, who of course was Captain Cook. They already predicted that hundreds of years before his arrival. They knew the arrival of Europeans, and the whole thing will be part and parcel of the end time scenario.
wow.
Or I should say, the actual change from one cycle to the next, because there's no end time. We're still here after the end of the Ice Age, and this is just the next closure, and then we go on to the next level of reality. That's how it's always been. There's always a time of order and a time of chaos, and then from that chaos we go to another level of order. That's where we are right now. So they're full of these incredible stories, and they also tell you about how the universe was created, exactly like the Egyptians said. And their information overlaps what I learned in South America with another very old people called the Aymara. Hardly anyone talks about the Aymara. There's only 8,000 left. And their wisdom keepers were telling me, and I published this in my book, The Missing Lands, that they arrived with Viracocha at the end of the flood to rebuild the temples around Lake Titicaca. Not build them, rebuild the temples. They're already there thousands of years before. And I had not made that connection until the Waitaha story came out. And between those two, I was able to put together how the Egyptians, the gods called the followers of Horus, were also in the Pacific sailing, and they were also in South America. So all of these three cultures come together and overlap and fill in a huge part of our history. And this is why I like doing what I do. I have no idea this is even possible, but I can now back up what they're saying with real life information.
Yeah, things things are definitely changing nowadays as folks like you are getting more facts and breaking down the walls of the academic structure. But I do want to ask, like, contemporarily now, currently, what kinds of social or professional resistance would you say that you may or may not be facing at this point? Are you beyond that? Are there still obstacles to your efforts?
No, they're not because I don't factor them into my efforts. I merely pay. I'm not convincing anybody of anything. Anytime I do a documentary or a book, I'm just laying out a story, and I laid out the evidence, and you can make up your own mind as to whether it's true or not. I think it's true, based on the evidence and the experiences that I've had. I'm just trying to something out there that says to people, our understanding of the past is flawed. Graham Hancock, my colleague, says the same thing. Robert Schoch says the same thing.
Yep.
I can go on ad
That's
infinitum about these
that's what
people.
kind of inspired the question was
Exactly.
that these gentlemen are getting a lot of blowback, and I was wondering if,
Absolutely.
yeah, if
Because
maybe
of that reason. But if you follow that track back into history, so did the first guy that found the first dinosaur bones in England. He was said that he was a bit of a quack. And the next people that showed up was a bunch of academics that faked a bunch of dinosaur bones, buried them into the strata, and said, "Look, we found more bones." And then he said, "Oh, look, there's more bones. Aha, got you. We put those there. They're fake." So that means they're all fake. This is how it works, you see, and they're still stuck with that. So I really don't care about them. If they want to jump off the cliff, that's fine, but history is on our side that shows any maverick that's out there that puts a crazy idea out there 50 years later, usually after they're dead, by the way, which is a bit annoying for collecting royalties, but usually when they've passed away or some event happens, which then forces academia to wake up and recognize that they're following the wrong track, then that's how the change happens. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just following my own passion and doing it. And the people that want to come along, they can come along. And if they want to throw arrows at me, they can do that as well. I really don't. It doesn't bother me at all.
have you come across? I can't think of the gentleman's name, as you know, I'm not great with names. Um, there's a gentleman up in the Fairbanks area, outside of Fairbanks in Alaska, who's been finding. I mean, these are his words: tens of thousands of mammoth skeletons. Are you familiar with this?
Uh, I know one story, which is a famous one where they found the mammoths flash frozen, as if the Earth's cooling system suddenly went into overdrive overnight, and it flash froze tens of thousands of mammoths. They're still eating crud in their mouth, and that was when the meteorites and maybe plasma also came out of the sun to create the end of the Younger Dryas. If that's the person you're talking about,
Yeah, I think it's the same character up in Alaska.
I
Very
can't remember his
very
name. I'm
interesting.
sorry.
Yeah, very interesting to have that many in one spot. And I thought it was funny because he said that he actually had, some, scientists, researchers, academics, or whatever, on his property looking at it in real time. And they were saying to him that it's not possible. And he's going, looking at him saying,
Exactly.
how can you be looking at it and say it's not possible?
I'll tell you another one. I mean, there was a tribe of native people up around Vancouver, just north of Vancouver, and they were saying for many, many years that look, we were here during the Ice Age. So of course the academics said there's no one here during the Ice Age. It was too cold. You'd been dead. You'd been frozen. But we were here. We were along the coast, the coast that didn't freeze, and the ice didn't exactly align on a single line across the globe. It went up and down with regional variation.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, during that period, most of the southern England was still ice free, and yet half of North America was covered with ice. So it's not linear by any events. Well, it always takes a small number of academics and archaeologists. 'Cause I don't always sort of trash them all in the same bag. There are good people working in those fields, just like there are good lawyers working in the field. You can't generalize.
Right.
So I'm going to be careful about that. And they actually went out there and said, well, let's find out if it's true. So they went to the shoreline where this group of people still lives. They dug up the sediment and they found, lo and behold, all of their buildings and their utensils from about 12,000 years ago. And it showed very clearly that there was a tribe of humans north of Vancouver living quite successfully during the middle of the Ice Age. So again, it always takes some maverick within the field to go out there and say, well, what if? What does it cost us to find out whether it's right or not? If it's wrong, well, they're going to be foolish, and if they're right, well, we're all going to expand our understanding of the past, and what could be better than that?
I've always been fascinated by how it appears to me that the world is a lot older than we understand.
Oh
And
God,
there's,
yeah.
there's, there's so many quirks to the information that we've been given. I spent a bunch of time up in Barrow, Alaska, the northernmost part. And the natives up there, according to their history, they've been there for 50,000 years, which blows my mind because it's
Oh,
stark.
absolutely.
It's a barren, it's like, as far as my brain goes, barren wasteland. There's nothing there. There's not a tree. There's no resources, but yet they have a rich history of whaling and living off the blueberry. Like, it's like, it blows your mind. Like, when I go up there, I think, how can anybody live here for one winter, let alone 50,000 years of, dealing
Because
with
it was
this?
warmer,
I guess so.
basically.
Yeah, but according to them, they've been there for 50,000 years, and I don't. The history books are trying to tell us 12,000 years, but yet how many stories do we have to ignore? If
All the
testimony
old
is
cultures
admissible
that
in
I've
court.
come across on the planet talk about the time being cyclical. Western academics think of time in linear context. They're the only people that do, oddly enough. So we think of Europe as being the high point of civilization. It's the Johnny come lately of civilization. The more I go to the Pacific, the more I find stuff that's older out there. It seems to be going in that direction towards Europe. And it finishes there, and it then recycles back into America and back to the Pacific. For example, I was listening to Aboriginal people in Australia, and they said, "Oh, we've got memories of things that happened, a million or 2 million years ago." And that valley over there, by the way, it was made by an earth shaker, which is their description of a meteorite. Now, a couple of scientists from, I think it was Adelaide University, I don't remember, they said, "Well, what if it's true? I mean, this would be extraordinary. What have we got to lose?" So they went out there, they got some LiDAR, and they found the actual rock that fell out of the sky and formed this crater, which is filled in now, of course. And the structure of the sediment was 1 million years old.
Wow.
And they approached me and said, you must have been here. Well, we weren't here, but our predecessors were. We remember everything. But we got older stories than that. They got a great sense of humor, these people.
Yeah, it's different. I
In fact, there was a
visited
couple of,
Australia.
if I may, now that you got
Hmm.
me on the subject, I do remember a paper, a peer-reviewed paper that was put forward by two physicists from Los Alamos Research Laboratory. They do some very interesting things with ancient civilizations that not many people know about, and I published their information in my book. And one of the things that struck me is that they were so clear about how do we know there wasn't a dinosaur civilization? You know, that there was also humanoids around then. But our mistake is trying to look for the fingerprints of the civilization according to our viewpoint. That's not the viewpoint a million, 2 million, 10 million years ago. We should be looking at other characteristics of what defined a civilization. Burning of biofuel, for example, things like that, but not in our computer culture. We would be looking for a computer drive or a car or an airplane stuck in the soil. We'd have to look for a different fingerprint because cultures change from one system to the other. It's a bit like saying, well, there's no culture that existed 10,000 years ago because there is no electrical wire, there's no computers buried anywhere, and they said they didn't have the wheel. Yeah, but it's there. It's just on a different tact. So we have to think from their point of view and their time period to find out what are the fingerprints that we should be looking for. And I thought it was a very, very good paper. And I'm surprised that not more people have paid attention to it because they made a very valuable point.
Wowzers. Yeah, I think I'm. I feel like things are changing at a wonderful pace nowadays. Um, yeah, I'm so psyched for the next Snippy event. There's a lot of good speakers coming in. Could
Makes
you?
you want to drink heavily.
There you go. Stay hydrated. Can you walk me through possibly what might be like in all of your investigations? Was there anything that you would say was like the most profound, most unexplainable thing, peculiar, brain twisting in your head,
Oh,
where you
that's a
just were
tough
like,
one.
oh my God, what did I find? Anything?
There's been so many.
Excellent. That's good.
Well, I could, if I do it chronologically, it's a lot easier. Crop circles. Two guys called Doug and Dave, they made all the world's crop circles. Turns out that they were basically put up by the British Secret Service, MI5, and they created a fictitious press agency from where the people in the British government sat, originally designed to put out disinformation on the Northern Ireland conflict. And eventually it was outed. I published it in my first book. And it turns out that Doug and Dave were basically set up to tell the world that they'd made everything. So when they were challenged on camera about how they were able to make this crop circle in this field, and yet in a field in the same evening, about 100 miles away, there was another crop circle that evening. In France, there was another one. And in America, there was another one the same evening. And they stopped explaining, and that's when the penny dropped. I went, oh, it's not humans after all. Yeah, it was an original metaphysical phenomenon, and it becomes a hoax phenomenon later on when people start showing up making complete garbage, and they're still doing it today, by the way. There's hardly any real crop circles left anymore. They kind of stopped around 2003, but that doesn't devalue what they're about and why they are so important in our culture, and I must emphasize that. So it was a discovery of what an otherworld consciousness, and I call it a consciousness because they're not in physical form as we are, sending information through time and space. And they used to be here in physical form at one point in our Earth's history. That I did not see coming. We got the name through a very good channeler in Britain who works with the police, and I just wrote it all down. I thought, how do we prove this? First of all, we've got to prove channeling. Two, we're going to validate the credentials of the channeler, which can be done very easily by the police because she helps them with all of their problems. And three, how do we validate these people called watchers existed in our lifetime? Well, they did 12,000 years ago, and they keep popping up through history in Armenia, in Sumeria, and of course in Egypt, where they're called the followers of Horus. So they were physical at one point, and the point was that they were giving us information because humans have asked for help. They could see after the Second World War, they could sense that the world was going to go in the wrong direction. And here we are today, complaining about global warming and trillionaires and all the other nonsense that's making life more difficult than it really has to be for us. So the idea was to input information to the Earth's energy grid, showing symbols in flattened crop where nothing is damaged. And out of it, we got mathematical formulae, we got anti-gravity technology, and lots of other goodies, which I'm actually going to be sharing at Snippy, by the way,
Excellent.
in August. I'm not going to tell you anymore. Got to leave something in the bag. That was one big aha, figuring out that we have help from outside, and these people who are helping are very interested in how we sort out our problems, because the decisions that we do are going to echo into eternity, and it will influence the outcome of other civilizations around the universe. That is big, very, very big. And that's why that book is still selling as it does today. I'm so proud of that. I can't even tell you, because I didn't want to write the book, which is what's amazing. So that was the big one. The second one was working out the connection between that and ancient sacred sites like pyramids and Stonehenge. Why do the ancients call these rocks living beings, living organisms? They interact with megaliths as though they are living organisms. So I went off to Egypt, taking a sort of a right-hand curve with a group who, let's just say that we fix up the energy of places after people have been there and they've done stupid things there. We clean up the garbage, the psychic garbage from sacred sites. But while we're there, we also do a lot of scientific research, hands-on stuff. And one of the greatest experiences of my life, and again, I didn't go to the Great Pyramid to have any amazing experience. I just went there to be of service. Now, I was there with four guys in complete darkness in the king's chamber. And as these three people are my witness, because they saw it too with their eyes, once we start doing some toning in the actual building, it's like we became part of the building, and we saw about 30 people dressed in these beautiful, long white robes just come out of the stones, and they surrounded us in total darkness. And to this very day, the four of us are still pretty much in shock about the whole thing.
I would be.
That was, oh, absolutely. But it was so beautiful. I mean, once in a while I actually interact with them. I know some portals around the world where it tends to appear and disappear. I didn't realize they're also behind a lot of the clues that they give me in my subconscious to go and research stuff that becomes the foundation of my work. So there's a two-way relationship going on here. So it's a personal thing for me. So that led me to understand how sacred sites work, the methodology as to where the places are placed, the types of rock that they use, which creates the effects that they do, which, by the way, will be the first presentation at Snippy, by the way. I better not give you too much away. So it turns out that the whole megalithic culture is based on a natural science of understanding the laws of the earth and how to bend those laws. That was the next big aha. And after that, it was, well, the Knights Templar, which is a bit of a, left turn at Albuquerque, but I didn't realize that the Knights Templar were very spiritual people. They're holding on to a big spiritual secret. They're protecting a bloodline, and they also understand how to manipulate energy for you to have a paranormal experience at certain points, pressure points along the face of the earth. That was a huge aha as well. And it meant that my book on the Templars became the #1 bestseller and Dan Brown was number two. And Dan Brown and I were neighbors in New Hampshire. You can't make this stuff up, my friends. It's absolutely real. And then one thing again leads to the next. There was one book I'd written on Scotland about how the megaliths of Scotland are unique and no one knows where they came from. And I was able to trace this whole story back to Sardinia, back to Scythia and Armenia and Sumeria. There's a whole movement of people that used to be called the Anunnaki, who keep changing their name, by the way. Not the people that get all the bad press. There's so much negative stuff has been said about these people. The people who talk about the Anunnaki in bad terms have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They haven't read the real Book of Enoch. They have not done the research. And I can say, hand on heart, that without the Anunnaki, you and I, Eric, would not be having this conversation right now. Humanity would have died during the Great Flood. We got bailed out because of them. So amazingly, they keep changing their name and taking their technology around the Mediterranean and around Europe, via Ukraine, via Denmark, and the Scandinavian territories. And they created these incredible megalithic sites in Scotland and Ireland. And along the way, they left a big trail of evidence. And that was the big question. Why were they doing it? I've got some answers for that. Part of it's to do with the manipulation of the laws of the earth. Two is to do with the fact that they were facing global climate change at the time and they needed to grow crops. And wherever you plant crops near these megaliths, and I just came back from France to talk to farmers about this. They said, yes, it's true. We don't talk about this to our neighbors unless they understand because they think we're a bit lulu. But the crops near the megaliths do better and they're more resistant to drought and to pests. And they also grow faster than the rest of the crops further away from the field. So we don't touch the megaliths. We have respect for them because we know they're protected by the fairy people. And when that comes out of a farmer, you know you got a real story. So it's been one incredible adventure after another. But again, not really knowing where I'm going. I'm just curious. I'm passionate, and let's see what doors come out. Let's see if the story sticks. And hopefully, so far, 9 times out of 10, the story usually sticks.
Fair enough. Oh, yeah, I thought I had my mute button on.
Otherwise, I might as well be making it up.
After all these years now, Freddie, looking into the unknown, looking for hidden treasures of knowledge and things like that. In this process, has it changed, or I should say, how has it changed your understanding of human existence?
I think we're much more tied to the center of the universe than we give ourselves credit for. And the culprit for that is religion. Religion comes from a Latin word, religio. It means to reconnect with the source. And every religion on the face of the earth, except maybe for Zen and Shinto, do everything but connect you back to the source. They keep you as far away from the source as possible. You can call it Allah, God, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. That's the one thing that I learned about all of this because it's also happened to me as an atheist, someone who's basically recovering Catholic. I could not understand why anybody would believe this complete bullshit because it really is. I was in advertising for 14 years, and I can tell you that a lot of these main religions are completely full of nonsense, which began as simple spiritual truths, and then they get squeezed out and thinned out until someone makes a lot of money out of it and creates a control mechanism to basically put us down, to make sure that we don't discover the gods that we came here to be and the gods that we really are. Because the one thing that I learned from all of this, and the science can back me up on this, and there are a lot of studies on this, is that despite the fact that we're very physical and we feel so disconnected from the source, we are one breath away from connecting with the source of everything. It happens in our dreams between 2 and 3 in the morning during REM sleep when the soul that's in your body, and by the way, only about 30% of the soul incarnates in the human body, you leave the body for an hour because the gravity field is weakened where you live. And that weakness of the gravity field allows you to go back to the source, connect with yourself, and you have these wonderful explorations. And at 3 in the morning, the car alarm goes off, you jump back into the body, otherwise you die. So it's important to get back into the body to complete your work. And that's been the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle and the biggest aha in life is that we have so much power in us, but we get talked out of it all the time. We can do extraordinary things. I mean, look at Nikola Tesla, for God's sake. The guy's not local. He was tapped into something else. On a more mundane level, Audrey Hepburn, who's a great, great person, the things that she achieved from the background that she came from during the Holocaust and who she became, and always with grace, never showing pain or anything, always improving herself. It can be done if you just avoid certain obstacles or overcome them or learn to listen to the land, listen to the spirit of nature and what it's trying to tell you. Get out of your own way. So it's very cliched. It's all very new age, but you know what? It's absolutely true because I'm living it. I'm not the same person that I was 30 years ago. And yes, I understood that there's another level of a strata of reality that we can't explain, but I couldn't quite go there because I have no validation. For me, my life was either designing or doing commercials, getting into the rhythm of the physical world to make money and have a big house and a nice sports car and several cats and, you know, have a functioning home life with my wife. But, you know, I had to get away from all of that in order to understand what really makes things tick. And I'm a much better person for it. I'm not saying I'm perfect because if you're perfect, you wouldn't bother incarnating. There's no point to incarnating if you're perfect. But I am much better as a person than I used to be. And it's thanks to the work that I've been doing hands on that it showed me physically and tangibly that there's much more going on around us than we give it credit for. And that's the one thing I recommend to everybody. Forget about the physical stuff. It's the bit in between the worlds that's very important. Whether you're going to hug a tree or go into a state of meditation or do yoga, it doesn't matter what tool you use. You go out there and do it. Find your right tool. Even music, even ayahuasca, psilocybin as well. There are methods that you can use to also leave the physical world for a certain time and find out what's really going on and then put that to work in your daily life. And I guarantee you that your life will be under your control. And once you have that under your control, no one can tell you what to do, and you are responsible for every decision you make. So, yeah, you take responsibility for everything. You fall down, yeah, you get up. You make a habit of not falling down. That's the whole point of being here. And that is very basic, and it's the best advice I can give to anybody because I'm doing it too.
I gather you've probably seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven.
I've actually had to wait until the director's cut to absolutely appreciate the whole thing. I've seen it 15 times.
Love that
I always
movie.
wanted to work with Ridley Scott. I nearly got to work with his brother in London.
One of my
And it's,
favorite lines is in that movie. All the world is in chess and your soul is in your keeping alone. That scene.
yeah, yeah,
Love that scene. Yeah, your soul is in your keeping alone, no matter what men or kings may move you.
absolutely.
When you get to the gates of heaven, you cannot say to Saint Peter, "But I was asked to do thus."
It's a great movie. I mean, movies have the best. Even Star Wars has some of the best answers to life, and it really does. And in fact, it was kind of sad that that film came out when it did, just after 9/11. So in America, nobody went to see it because they wouldn't. We didn't want to see films about Arabs and blah blah blah. People are pissed off or just they're in shock, and understandably. But now, if you go back and look at it and look at the director's cut, because it makes so much more sense, there's so much spiritual information about, you know, integrity and about the path that's going to be difficult, but you get there. Even Salah ad-Din, after, you know, they've made some kind of truce about the war, and Orlando Bloom's character says, "What is Jerusalem worth?" And Salah ad-Din turns around and goes, "Nothing, everything." Yeah, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. It depends on your point of view and your perspective. And the final scene, which I will not ruin for anybody who's not seen it, is in the last moment of the film where Salah ad-Din goes into the church in Jerusalem and does something that you'd never expect anyone from a different culture to do on a religious level. He absolutely nails it at that point. And I was the only person in the cinema that went, am I the only person here that just got the message about respect? Even though you don't agree, you can agree to respect each other. That's just the mystery to life. That is the absolute reason why we're all here, to respect each other.
Jeez, I think that's a
We could
fantastic
talk
way of
about films
putting it,
forever.
Freddie. What's that?
We could talk about films forever.
Oh, I didn't know you were such a buff. Yeah, that's actually one
Oh,
of
I
my
have a big
favorites.
film library. Oh, God.
I feel
Didn't
like
get to Blade Runner at one point. I've seen that 51 times.
I need to watch that one again, actually, too. But I
The
think
director's cut, of course.
following the direction that we were kind of just going right there. I feel like we kind of touched on it, but since I didn't ask specifically, I kind of do want to. If you could pass on one piece of advice to the next generation of investigators like yourself, stepping up to the starting line nowadays, what would that be?
Drink heavily. I'd say you got to keep an open mind. And two, we know nearly nothing. We know what we know from the trash left over from previous civilizations. And unless you dig down to the bedrock of every inch on the planet, you will not know anything about the truth. You'll get an approximation of what happened, but it'll still be an approximation. The only people that know the truth are the people who are involved with any event. Even last week, you can read 50 different stories in the media, but you still get an impression or different impressions, which will not be the absolute truth, you see. And that's the one thing. You've got to keep an open mind. And two, you've got to tell yourself, I know next to nothing. And that will keep you going because that's the only way you're going to make sense of the past. And listen to the people whose ancestors were closer to the events than we are today. Herodotus, he gets trashed all the time. He wasn't a historian. He never claimed to be a historian. He was someone who went walkabout collecting stories. That was his wonderful thing. But you know what? The stories that he collected around the Giza Plateau and the pyramids and who built them, and it's right there, by the way. The Arabs actually tell you who built them. It's very, very clear. I'm surprised people have missed this. And by the way, I put that into my documentary on Egypt that I put last year, blowing people's minds out. And it's so obvious, but the people he was talking to were closer to the time when the pyramids were built than we are today, arguing about how they were built and who built them. So you see, you've got to go back into the past to the ancestors and the people who lived this. They know more than we do. So those three pieces of advice is the best I can give because you can't go wrong with that. Well, you can if your ego gets in the way and you want to get that post at college or university and you've got to fight for it and you've got to get rid of your integrity in order to get that comfortable seat in that chair which gives you 50 grand a year. Yeah, if that's your bag, fantastic, but I wouldn't do it, not for $1 million, and I mean that. All the money in the world couldn't get me out of my little path that I'm doing. It might be difficult, but I love it.
Thank you, Freddie. So for anybody out there that's up and coming, follow Freddie's advice. Freddie, this
And
has
if it
been
works out for you and it makes you happy and you do it really well, tell us how to do it well.
There you go. It's always good to collaborate. Well, Freddie,
Exactly.
thank you very much for joining me here today and giving
Thanks, Eric.
myself and the other folks a little bit of the insight to the path that you followed. I look forward to seeing you at Snippy this year. Again, for the folks in the audience, it'll be August 13th to 16th in Mosca, Colorado. If you want to find out more information about the event, tickets, prices, and all of that fun stuff, you can go to the website at snippy.space. You can follow us along on Twitter at Snippy the Horse. And Freddie, as far as contacts, information, where can folks go to follow your work?
Oh, that's the best part of the whole interview. Thank you. You can go to my website, invisibletemple.com, which pretty much explains what the whole world is all about. The physical temple and the non-physical temple. So all the books are there, the documentaries are there, there's articles everywhere, keep you busy for quite a while. So yeah, support your local author so we can keep doing good work.
Absolutely. Freddie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
I hope you have a wonderful Monday, and I look forward to crossing paths with you again, this Snippy event in August. Sir?
That's right. We'll clink beers in the desert.
Absolutely,
The weather
absolutely.
will be wonderful at night.
We'll be the first two to shake hands with the aliens that show up.
Oh, excellent.
Oh,
As long
excellent.
as not I don't want the little grey ones. I don't like the grey ones, but the tall Nordic ones, I hear, the women are very beautiful.
It sounds like fantastic. We'll buy them some cocktails. Maybe it'll be ladies' night in Moscow, Colorado.
Now that would be a different ladies' night.
There you go.
Which planet do you come from?
Yes.
Oh, I like it.
Come to this solar
Thanks,
system
Eric.
often. Thank you, Freddie. Have an excellent day, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Be well.
Cheers.